Good morning and welcome to the Landmarks Preservation Commission's public hearing and public meeting of January 23rd, 2024. We'll begin this morning by taking attendance, and I'll ask our General Counsel, Mark Silverman, to call the roll.
Carroll.
Here.
Vice Chair Brown. Commissioner Chapin. Commissioner Chen. Commissioner Chu. Commissioner Ginsburg. Here. Commissioner Goldblum. Here. Commissioner Jefferson. Here. Commissioner Lefty. Commissioner Master.
Did you get Commissioner Halford Smith?
I said her name, but I did you.
Oh, here. Sorry, I
Okay.
couldn't hear.
Thank you.
Right, good morning again and welcome to our public hearing meeting today, January 23rd. We are going to begin this morning with a public hearing for an item that was proposed for designation by the research department. And then we will move to a public meeting agenda for applications for work on a designated property that has already had a public hearing, which we've already heard testimony to a public hearing agenda to review new applications for work on designated properties. This meeting is being held in our hearing room at 1 Central Street on the 9th floor, and it's also being held via Zoom and live streamed on our YouTube channel if anyone is interested in watching the proceedings. And with that, I will turn it over to Timothy Fry, our Director of Special Projects and Strategic Planning, to take us through the research item.
Good morning, Chair Carroll and Commissioners. Item 1, LP 2677, the New York Public Library Tremont Branch at 1866 Washington Avenue in the Bronx, Block 2918, Lot 1. The proposed item was constructed in 1905 and designed by the prominent firm of Carrera and Hastings, who designed 14 Carnegie-funded libraries in New York City. Presenting will be research staff Sarah Eccles.
Good morning. I'm Sarah Eccles from the Research Department presenting the Tremont Branch of the New York Public Library. The Tremont Branch was the 6th library of 67 circulating libraries constructed from steel magnate Andrew Carnegie's donation in 1901, which created the most extensive library system in the country. The Tremont Library was one of 14 Carnegie libraries designed by the prominent architecture firm of Carrera and Hastings, and it has remained in remarkable condition. The Tremont Branch is the last undesignated Carnegie library in the Bronx that is intact and still operating within the public library system. The Tremont Branch Library is located in the East Tremont neighborhood of the Bronx at the corner of East 176th Street and Washington Avenue. This neighborhood was named in 1856 to reflect the three hills or mountain area, New and Tremont. The village developed quickly amid the early 19th century, had a growing population of hired rent, the post office, and a free circulating library. The first library in Tremont was the Bronx Free Library, which was established in 1901 and operated out of the Tremont Church. When the Tremont Branch opened across the street from the church, the Bronx Free Library closed, giving its 10,000 books to the Tremont Branch. The early success of the Tremont Branch was likely attributed in large part to the community's with this intersection as home to the library. The cornerstone of the Tremont Branch was laid on January 21st, 1904, and was completed in July 1905. Carnegie libraries were opened in populated areas of busy streets where the window rooms were strategically placed close to the sidewalk to draw people in. Community branch libraries like Tremont reflected Carrera and Hastings' stately, classically inspired aesthetic, used to make the libraries easily recognizable to the public. Carrera and Hastings, one of the most prominent finance architecture firms in 20th century New York, designed the Central Branch of Manhattan. The firm was also part of the Architects Committee, which set the design standards for the branch library system. Carrera and Hastings designed 14 branch libraries, which fell into 3 general categories: mid-block libraries like the Newport Branch in Manhattan, small freestanding libraries like the Tottenham Branch in Staten Island, and libraries set on practical areas like the Tremont Branch and Bronx, where the libraries were most common. The two-story building is a classical divided brick building designed for current instincts. The building has a partial third story for the janitor's apartment. The building features a limestone trim with limestone stones on the first floor and large windows, a projecting ramp course between the first and second floor, a limestone engraving on the second floor windows, and articulated cornice and wrap-out panels. Although designed with 5 bays, a 6th bay was added between 1950 and 1960. Due to the extension, what was originally a central entrance is now a symmetrical entrance on Washington Avenue. The building also has a side entrance and a basement entrance on the side entrance on 6th Street. In the early 20th century, Tremont was home to primarily European immigrants. This essentially addressed the population change from Europeans to primarily Latino and Black families. The Tremont Branch held lectures and events to educate the public in a wide variety of subjects. The programs were largely informed by the demographics of Tremont and the library itself as beneficial to the community, which evolved over time. The librarians strive to serve the multicultural community of Tremont from its opening day. Librarians employed at the Tremont Branch, the vast majority of whom provided extremely detailed documentation of the library's program, circulation, and the surrounding community throughout its history. Many staff wrote letters describing the importance of the library, their work with the public, changes to the neighborhood, and advocacy of the program, which gives insight into the impact the librarians have in Tremont. The librarians became heavily involved in literacy education for the neighborhood. In the 1950s, they began foremost branches for books and programs on Jewish culture, history, and the Hebrew and Yiddish languages. And later, in 1967, it participated in the South Bronx Library Project, which provided Spanish language books, programming, and bilingual staff as the number of residents reported about the area. The exterior of the Tremont Branch remains remarkably intact, including the stone work. The library had several renovations over its lifetime, including an interior renovation in the 1950s, closing the library for several months. When it reopened, the public rushed in to use the space once again, showcasing the world telegraph's photo. The Tremont Branch also had interior renovations in 2001 to make the library more accessible. Part of Carnegie's commissions for his donation tasked the New York Public Library with stewardship of these libraries, a task evidently carried out in the Tremont Branch. The Tremont Branch Library is a distinguished example of a highly intact, well-preserved branch library constructed from the donation of Andrew Irving that created the most extensive library system in the United States. Along with the library's stately architecture by the firm of Career Hastings, is a community space that evolved in step with the Tremont neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, commissioners? Right. Let's see if we have any testimony. Is there anyone in the room who wishes to speak on this item? Noting that there isn't, I'm going to turn it over to Gregory Collett to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. If you would like to speak on this item, please click the raise hand button now so I can call on you to speak. Okay. So we have a couple of hands raised for this item. The first we'll be hearing from is George Mihaltzis from the New York Public Library. So I will be promoting you right now to panelist. I've promoted you to panelist, George Mihaltzis, so please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
George Mihaltzis, New York Public Library. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, just give me 1 minute. Good morning. I'm George Mihaltzis, Vice President for Government and Community Affairs at the New York Public Library. I want to thank you for inviting us to speak about the historical significance of our Tremont branch, which is currently under landmark consideration. The New York Public Library supports this important designation as it upholds the branch's strong presence in the community and honors its 119 years of service to New Yorkers. The branch at the corner of East 176th Street and Washington Avenue in the Bronx has served the residents of the Tremont neighborhood since its opening in 1905. The Tremont Library is one of 67 circulating libraries constructed in New York City during the early 20th century with funding from philanthropist Andrew Carnegie. The Classical Revival building was designed by Carrere and Hastings and is one of 14 Carnegie libraries designed by the firm for the New York Public Library. For close to 120 years, it has welcomed New Yorkers of all ages and backgrounds, honoring its mission to be the people's university. In the early years, the Tremont Branch librarians utilized innovative ways to teach English to new immigrants from Eastern Europe and had strong programming to support a growing Jewish community. As the demographics of the neighborhood changed to predominantly Spanish-speaking in the 1960s, bilingual librarians, Spanish language materials, and programming were introduced to better serve patrons. In the 1980s, the branch responded again to the changing neighborhood and established a Black heritage community, which highlighted Black authors. The New York Public Library considers our Carnegie libraries to be a treasured gift for their communities and one that all New Yorkers can enjoy. Thank you again for allowing us to share the history and impact of the Tremont Library, a branch that continually changed to reflect the needs and interests of its patrons. We greatly appreciate your time and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next up, we will be hearing from the Historic Districts Council. So I will be promoting you to panelist right now. So please unmute your line, state your name for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. Diego Roballo from the Historic Districts Council. As a citywide advocate of New York's architectural, historical, and cultural neighborhoods.
Sorry, could you please speak a little louder? We're not picking you up.
Can you hear me?
Louder, please.
What about now? Can you hear me now? As a citywide advocate of New York's architectural, historical, and cultural neighborhoods, the Historic Districts Council supports the designation of New York Public Library Tremont Branch as an individual New York City landmark. This building, constructed in 1905 and designed by architectural firm Carrere and Hastings, stands as a testament to the community and the history of the Bronx. Its designation as a landmark would not only honor its architectural significance, but also preserve the cultural heritage it represents. The Tremont Branch is one of 67 libraries funded by Andrew Carnegie and one of 14 Carnegie-funded libraries designed by Carrere and Hastings, who were also responsible for NYPL's Central Branch at 5th Avenue and 42nd Street in Manhattan, both recognized as individual and interior landmarks. Carrere and Hastings' neo-federal style Tremont Branch, with classical revival influences, features a rural style distinct in its 5 original bays. The building is characterized by limestone trim arch windows with keystones and a robust cornice presenting an elegant facade. Beyond its architectural magnificence, the Tremont Branch has been a meaningful place in the local community for over a century. From its inception, it has adapted to the needs of a diverse and evolving population. Early on, it established reading clubs and provided educational programs, becoming a vital center for English learning for new immigrants. Its efforts in the 1950s to provide literature and programs on Jewish culture and later on Spanish language resources reflect its commitment to serving the neighborhood's multifaceted cultural and linguistic needs. In light of its architectural merit and profound community impact, HDC urges LPC to designate the Tremont Branch of New York Public Library as an individual landmark. Designating this building will not only preserve its physical structure, but also honor its legacy as a symbol of learning, culture, and community support in the Bronx. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I do not see any further hands raised. I initially saw that Huntington Free Library. Yes, okay. So I will be promoting Huntington Free Library and Reading Room to panelists right now. And if you could please unmute your line and state your name for the record, you will have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for letting me testify. My name is Angel Hernandez, I'm Bronx Borough historian as well, and a member of HDC's Bronx Landmarks Committee. I support the designation of the New York Public Library's Tremont Branch in the Bronx and as an individual landmark. The Tremont Branch, showcasing a neo-federal style, has outstanding architectural significance, but it's more than a building. It's been a cornerstone of community life for over a century, continually adapting to the diverse and changing needs of its patrons. In its early years, it established reading groups and educational initiatives, becoming an essential hub for English learning among immigrants. Over time, it has mirrored the neighborhood's evolving cultural dynamics, from offering Jewish cultural materials in the 1950s to Spanish language resources in later years. Given its architectural prowess and significant role in community enrichment, I urge the LPC to bestow the status of an individual landmark on the Tremont Branch of the New York Public Library. This act of designation is crucial not only to maintain the building structure, but also to celebrate its enduring role in the Bronx. Moreover, the recognition of landmarks in the Bronx, like the Tremont Branch, is vital for the borough's identity and pride. It helps in highlighting the Bronx's unique contributions to New York City's history and culture. Landmarks in the Bronx serve as tangible reminders of the borough's rich heritage, offering educational opportunities and fostering a sense of belonging and community among residents. They also attract tourists and visitors, which can boost local economies and encourage further investment in the area. Landmark designation in the Bronx, therefore, not only preserves historical sites, but also contributes to the social and economic vitality of the borough. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I do not see any further hands raised. So I will note for the record that we received 2 additional pieces of testimony recommending approval from 2 other individuals. And I will bring it back to you, Chair Carroll.
Thank you very much. So I'd like to thank everyone who testified on this item. It's very moving to hear the support. And this item, as we've said, I think before, came out of our comprehensive survey of architectural resources in the Bronx, and we're delighted that we're moving ahead with it. And I just want to acknowledge the New York Public Library and their support and cooperation and engagement with us. It's been very helpful as we've moved ahead, and as a library, they are a great resource as well for our researchers. So I want to thank them. So commissioners, if there aren't any other questions, we'll move to close the hearing. Okay, Commissioner Goldblum, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Jefferson. Would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the hearing is closed, and we will continue to accept written letters into the record, and we'll schedule a vote in the very near future. We will now move to our preservation department agenda. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. We'll start today's preservation department agenda with a public meeting item. It's public meeting item number 1, LPC 23-03141. An application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Staten Island, Block 891, Lot 1, 209 Flagg Place, the Ernest Flagg House individual landmark. This is an estate including a Dutch colonial revival style mansion designed by Ernest Flagg and built in 1898, altered later in 1907 with Palladian style inspired details and related accessory buildings. The application is to alter facades, modify roof lines and window openings, install new windows, and replace roofing. This was last presented at the public hearing of September 12th, 2023, and no action was taken at that time. Staff will be presenting, but I know the applicant is here as well for questions, so we'll open the proceedings from there if necessary.
Okay, thank you. And so just one housekeeping item. I do want to note that 2 commissioners were recused on that last item. It was a proposal for designation of the Tremont Branch of the New York Public Library. So Commissioner Ginsburg and Vice Mayor Land are recused. And I'm going to go ahead and open the proceedings now so that after Leanne presents, we can have a seamless conversation with the applicant. So Commissioner Master, would you make a motion to open the proceedings? So moved. Thank you. And Commissioner Lutfi, would you second that motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we're all set, and Leanne will take us through the presentation.
Sure, thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Leanne Pollock, Preservation Staff.
This item is 209 Flagg Place, which was reviewed by the commission on September 12th, 2023. At that hearing, the commission reviewed this application for modifying masonry openings, replacing windows, altering facades, modifying roof lines, and replacing roofing. The commission was supportive of some aspects of the scope of work in general, including installing new roofing, replacing historic wood windows and modern replacements with aluminum-clad wood casement windows, replacing modern siding, modest changes to masonry openings, adding dormers, creating a garage with added paving for a driveway, and installing outdoor HVAC units. However, the commission had several requests to modify the proposal, including changing the proposed roofing materials to be more consistent with historic documentation and retaining the roof line at the swim tank and the pavilion, installing railings based more closely on historic images and materials, scaling down the size of new and modified masonry openings and dormer windows, reviewing the logistics involved in modifying openings in the mosaic rubber wall, and limiting the use of single light windows to non-visible areas. As a refresher, this is the Flagg Mansion site with the area of the expanded individual landmark in light pink. The mansion, as you'll remember, is this larger building right here at the front. The primary visibility of the building is from Flagg Place, as shown on the screen. The site went through phases of development, with this slide showing the earliest conditions, and this next slide showing expansions and modifications to the mansion that were undertaken by Flagg early in the life of the building. And here are the current conditions of the Flagg Place facade. This slide shows, the top shows the existing conditions of the mansion. The middle elevation shows the proposal as presented at the September public hearing, and the lower elevation shows the current proposal. The main changes in response to the commission's comments on this facade include changing the roofing material at the main mansion, at the wings, which you can't really see here, and at this end pavilion, to EnviroShake, a synthetic shingle material that's intended to mimic wood shake. And there's a sample of that being passed around on the table. And copper standing seam here at the swim tank only. The roof line for the pavilion is also now proposed to stay as existing. But the swim tank roof is proposed to be still modified so that the sloped part of the roof comes down and extends over this kind of flat extension here at the swim tank. And I'll show that more in another slide. The width of these enlarged openings, these 3 openings here at the swim tank, have been reduced in width. Previously, there was a 35-inch increase to the size of the existing openings. Now it's a 13-inch increase. And the applicant is also now proposing to replicate the details of the historic porch railing and the widow's walk railing, but using substitute materials in lieu of wood. They're also proposing now to replace the porch columns, both at the first floor down here and at the second floor, with fiberglass in lieu of in wood. And that is the other sample here is a column. That's a fiberglass column. This slide includes images of the historic roofing materials and roof lines that were studied when making changes to the proposal. As a reminder, the majority of the house appeared to have wood shingle roofing with either a glass or a standing seam roof at the swim tank. You can see some zoomed in images of that over here. This photo is also a good one to look at. Let's see, right here, you can see the flat roofing at the swim tank and then the pitched roof at the back. So the applicant's proposing now to pitch the roof all the way across this to facilitate some drainage issues that are occurring up there. Here are the locations proposed to use the cast fiberglass for the porch columns. You can see them here at the first floor. And at the second floor, there's actually 3 different types of columns that show up. There's a square column at each end of the first floor, rounded columns in the intervening first floor, and then kind of square pilasters that are at the top floor. And then the design of the new railings also to match the phase 2 railing. Let's see, that's the next slide. Here are the railings. So phase 2 of the house. The proposal now is to match this design, but also using fiberglass, and then also to replicate the Widow's Walk. Aluminum? Okay, aluminum, sorry. The commission asked for more details about the standing seam roofing and that it more closely replicate the spacing and the details of a typical residential roof and be changed to be also a more typical historic material. The applicant previously proposed a painted aluminum standing seam and is now proposing copper with a 16-inch panel width and a 1-inch height seam. These photos show a physical sample that was produced for this project over here. And then the upper right sample is a picture of the EnviroShake, again, that's being passed around the table. So next we'll move on to the courtyard facades. These are the existing condition. There's a central portion of the mansion, and then there's 2 wings, a 2-story wing and a 1-story wing that come out from the back. This slide focuses on one of the wings, showing again the existing conditions, what was shown at the September public hearing and what's now proposed. The main changes in response to commission's comments on this facade include eliminating the single light casement windows, moving them in some locations to only non-visible below grade areas, reducing the width of the new dormer windows. You can see the prior proposal here, now going to single width windows in the lower. And you can also see the change in roofing material from standing seam originally proposed at the wings to now the EnviroShake shingle. In response to scaling down these dormers, the applicant's now proposing to raise the heights of the roof and the masonry walls at all of the courtyard wings by approximately 2 feet. You can see the dimensions are called out in red here. Those changed dimensions are called out in red. And here's the proposed elevation now. And then this is the wing that's on the opposite side of the courtyard, and it mirrors the same sorts of changes that we just reviewed on the opposite side. So shrinking the widths of the dormers, moving to multi-light windows, and also raising the heights of the roof ridges. This is a comparison of the courtyard facade of the central mansion. Changes to this elevation include reducing the width of the top floor dormer, which you can see down here, from 4 windows wide to 2 windows wide, limiting single light casements again to only non-visible and below grade locations. And here you can also see the change in the height of the roof ridges and some additional roof vents that have been added in the gable. Here's a view study of the roof line changes. The existing gable of one of the wings is currently just barely visible over the front facade. The proposed roof height will increase the visibility very slightly at only this wing. The other wing on the other side will remain not visible from Flagg Place. I'm going to let the applicant walk through these slides at the conclusion of the overview. Okay, the changes at the outward facing facades at the wings are also focused on reducing the dormer widths. So here you can see we looked at the garage doors last time down here, and then reducing these dormers up at the top and the dormers down here at the wing, and also the change to multi-light windows. And then the wing on the other side, again, similar changes to the outward facing side we just reviewed. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Rachel Franklin, the architect, so that she can review some of the justification.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Rachel Franco. I'm the architect for this application. And I'm going to thank you once again. She's been terrific. I'm going to start talking about the roofing materials. The commissioners objected to our proposal for slate roof shingles and requested something that resembles historic shakes. For all the roofs, as Leanne said, including the end pavilion, but not for the swim tank, we propose EnviroShake. Composite material is right there by Commissioner Ginsburg. It's made from post-industrial plastics, recycled elastomers, and cellulosic fibers. EnviroShake, of which EnviroShake has a Class A fire rating and does not require periodic chemical treatments. The material is low maintenance and has longevity, both of which are highly important to my client, the applicant, along with me, who, if he goes forward and purchases the property, intends to reside in it for the foreseeable future and pass it on to his progeny. Today's white pine shakes are reputed to
everyone on Zoom and YouTube, we're having some technical difficulties. We're working on it now. Please bear with us. Thanks.
continuing. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yes, you can.
Picking up where I left off, speaking about the EnviroShake proposed material. It's low maintenance and has longevity, both of which are highly important to my client who, if he goes forward and purchases the property, intends to reside in the residence for the foreseeable future and pass it to his progeny. Today's white pine shakes, which is perhaps what the historic material was, are reputed to last only 20 years and have at best a Class B fire rating, requiring a periodic chemical application to maintain that rating. EnviroShake resembles historic shakes, and we find it appropriate. The commissioners requested no change to the roof lines. At the pavilion, which is what we now propose. The commissioners requested that the roofing of the swim tank emulate the proportions of the historic roof, which is what we now propose for historic phase 1. For the roofing material at the swim tank, we propose a traditional style copper roof with standing seams 16 inches on center and with an 8-inch apron at the eaves. We find this design to be in keeping with the historic appearance of the original roof and other roofs by Flagg, including the Frederick Bowen House, 1887 to 1890, which is in Oakdale on Long Island. We believe this respects the design of the historic roofs. Columns. We propose replacing the non-historic hollow metal fluted ionic columns at the veranda and the historic square recessed panel columns clad in vinyl now. On the second floor, we propose replacing them with columns that match the appearance of the historic. On the veranda, we propose tapered, round, non-fluted Doric columns in the middle, at the ends square,
And on the second floor, we propose square columns with recessed panels. We propose using cast fiberglass, which has the appearance of painted wood. The sample before you is primed. The non-historic metal replacements and vinyl cladding are testament to the Flagg Place side's greater exposure to wind, rain, and sun. The columns we propose are made from a proprietary blend of fiber-reinforced polymers. The columns are waterproof, insect-proof, more impact-resistant than wood, impervious to moisture and humid ocean climates, and have a lifetime warranty. Unlike wooden columns, which must be sealed against insects and vented to avoid rot, a process that must be periodically performed, permacast columns require no maintenance and assure longevity, which is of great importance to the prospective purchaser. We believe this appropriately restores the historic appearance. Handrails. The commissioners requested that the second-story porch handrails be in wood and match those of historic Phase 2. We propose matching the Phase 2 design, but in a powder-coated aluminum and white for the purposes of low maintenance and longevity, as aluminum is corrosive resistant. For the new railings proposed at the swim tank, we propose a design that matches the historic at the widow's wall with newels in cast fiberglass and railings and spindles in black powder-coated aluminum. Windows. We propose removal of all the windows, both the few that are historic and the rest that are not, and replacement with energy-conserving double-glazed aluminum clad fenestration, as stated and explained at the public hearing. At the swim tank, the commissioners said that widening the masonry openings by 3 feet overwhelms the facade. We now propose widening the masonry openings by 13 inches to retain a punched opening appearance. Also, we are maintaining the pavilion's existing historic higher lintel. At the courtyard dependencies, the commissioners asked us to maintain the appearance of single punched openings and use only multi-light casements, which we now propose. To comply with the minimal requirements for natural light, the existing window lintels and the roofs need to be raised. At the west dependency, this is the east. At the west dependency, raising the roof 24 inches provides the minimal amount of compliant light. We need to provide attics for energy conservation and mechanical equipment, including HVAC blowers, ducts, possibly sprinklers, electrical conduit, and plumbing pipes, none of which can be located on the exterior. While Flagg provided a full-height attic over the main house, of which you see the very end, you're not seeing the full height because where the section is cut, he did not provide attics over the dependencies. Rather, Flagg provided a couple of ridge dormers, which preclude attics and add to rather than reduce energy load. And I can get the mouse to work. Okay, you can sort of see, I hope you can see them on the roofs of the dependencies. It's hard to work that with the mouse. Okay. The seminary added an attic to the east dependency. Top right red circle, you can see it there. But to the detriment of the house, this attic lacks both ventilation and insulation. No attic was added to the west dependency, which should be noted is 18 inches shorter and 4 inches wider than the east. At the upper floor of the two-story east dependency, we propose widening the existing dormers to align with the width of the windows below, the historic windows below. And at those windows below, we propose increasing their height. We propose raising the roofs of the one-story east and west dependencies to maintain the relationship of the roof lines between them and the two-story dependencies. At the cellar level, we propose dropping the existing sills to bring in more light and air. Without raising the roofs, the two-story dependencies proposed level floors, which will provide wheelchair accessibility, which is required for this family, do not comply with code for floor to ceiling heights. They will result in 6'10" and 7'5" ceiling heights. If the roofs cannot be raised as proposed, the upper floors of the two-story dependencies will be non-viable for my client, and his family's requirements will not be met. We believe that the proposed 24-inch raising of the roofs only minimally impacts the building. On the Flagg side, the only elevation that is visible from the public way, as you saw, there is almost no visibility. At the attics, we propose installing gable vents and insulation, which together will decrease heating and cooling loads and prevent condensation and mold. Lowering the first floors is not an option as it will destroy the remaining historic interiors. At the existing chapel, we do not propose keeping or replacing the multicolored lights or church iconography because they are not historic. At the main house on the courtyard side, the commissioners objected to the quadrupled enlargement of the third floor center dormer, which we now propose only doubling to provide sufficient light and air. The commissioners asked us to analyze the historic mosaic rubble walls to ensure that our proposals to enlarge some of the windows, create new ones, and now also to raise the dependencies of the roof lines, to raise the dependencies roof lines could be soundly made. Our consultants include architectural conservator Helen Thomas Haney of Jablonski Building Conservation and structural engineer Mohammed Rahel of Severin. They have assured us that our proposals do not compromise the structural integrity of the building, and all dismantled stones can be reused to trim new openings and clad the 24-inch wall extensions. Helen Thomas Haney has further assured us that due to the historic stone's highly variegated color, shape, and texture, the roughly 100 square feet of new field stone required can be interspersed with the salvaged stone so that the materials blend in. The proposed repointing will further assure a unified appearance. Mohammed Rahel assures us that our proposals are structurally feasible, and that if the work is performed under the supervision of a competent contractor and engineer, the stability of the house will not be diminished. Also, based on the relatively small scale of the proposed alterations, the increase in gravity and lateral loads are minimal and will not trigger the need for retrofit or additional reinforcement. Helen's going to talk to you more, and then Mohammed, and then I will come back for a little bit. Oh, and I'm going to work the slides.
Again,
You need to introduce yourself.
yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning. Again, my name is Helen Thomas Haney, and I am with Jablonski Building Conservation. As Ms. Frankel has said, since we're proposing to enlarge some of the window openings, install new garage doors, and raise the dependencies roof lines, the structural engineer Mohammed Rahal from Severin Associates and we studied the original wall construction and proposed methods for achieving these alterations without compromising the walls. While the exterior wall surface looks like conventional rubble ashlar construction, they are what Ernest Flagg calls mosaic rubble, To quote him, "The walls are made by placing stones in forms, with the flattest side flush with the outer face and shoveling in concrete behind them. No mortar is placed between the stones as they are laid in the forms, but they are put in dry, like pieces of mosaic, and mortar is squeezed into the joints afterwards when the forms are removed. Therein lies the chief novelty. Where window, door, and other openings occur in the walls, forms are set up against which the masonry stops. The form, with the permanent frame for the opening, together occupy the full space between the planks, i.e., the full thickness of the wall. The forms are splayed and may be easily drawn out when the planks are removed, but the frame has anchorage members which become engaged in the masonry and hold it permanently and securely in position." End quote. Therefore, to enlarge the window openings, we recommend the following procedure. First, the outer width of stone in the removal area should be carefully dismantled and salvaged to reveal the backing concrete. 2, the new openings should be cut out of the concrete using a masonry chainsaw or wire saw to limit any vibration and percussive forces. 3, the salvaged stone should be installed around the new openings in new mortar or concrete. Some anchors may be necessary to hold these units in place. The salvaged stone should be tooled and shaped to provide square jambs and to match existing window openings. Lintel voussoirs will be rebuilt to match their original characteristics, either rustic, smooth, or a single unit. Fourth, the salvage stones that are not needed to trim the new openings would be used to clad the 2-foot extensions of the walls. Approximately 400 square feet of stone will be needed to raise the walls, and approximately 300 square feet of salvage stone will be available. The contractor should obtain approximately 100 square feet of new field stone to match the original stone, samples of which will be submitted for review and approval. As the original stone is variegated in color, we recommend that the new stone be interspersed with the salvage stone so that the new material blends in. And finally, due to the prevalence of open mortar joints and several non-matching repointing mortars, which have also failed, the walls of the house will be completely repointed in new mortar to match the original. The newly set stones will also be pointed in the same mortar, resulting in a uniform appearance to the facades. Now I'll turn it over to Mohammed Rahal to discuss the structural concerns.
Thank you, Helen. I'm Mohammed from Severed Associates, structural engineer. I'm going to be discussing the structural aspects of these proposed alterations, how we are proposing to accomplish these alterations and additions. So firstly, looking at drawing 1 on the screen, we propose to accomplish the raising of the roof by 2 feet by simply placing CMU on top of the concrete portion of the wall. And as a reminder, this wall is approximately 2 feet thick. It's comprised of mortared stone on the outside face, which was cast together with the concrete, which comprises most of the wall, and is on the inside face. So really, it's a cast in place concrete wall with a stone veneer. So we propose to raise the roof by adding block on top of the existing concrete portion, which can be doweled in and connected. And on the outside face, we would have stone veneer, which consists of partly stone that's salvaged from the enlarging of the windows, and partly field stone to match, as Helen described. And before this happens, the wall will have to be temporarily braced, so that the existing roof can be removed. Once the bracing is in, the existing roof can be removed and simply replaced in kind at the higher elevation. And that's what's shown in that drawing one. And drawing two is trying to illustrate how we accomplish the raised or heightened windows, I should say, at the second floor, which are dormered as well. And because the existing window, the header conditions on the second floor simply formed from the eave of the existing roof, all that needs to happen is when the new roof is in, the new roof will have to have the dormers built in with headers built in to support the header condition of that window. Next slide. This slide kind of demonstrates an elevation what's happening at those second floor windows where not only are we raising the height of the window and the roof, but we're also widening the window to match the window below. And generally it's the same concept that the top of the wall has to be braced before the existing roof can be removed. And to widen the window, as Helen pointed out, it's going to be a combination of you saw cut the wall from the inside face, so you're saw cutting the concrete portion. And when you saw cut, you don't cut all the way through the wall, you only cut the inside face. And then the outside face of the wall, first the grout has to be routed, and then the stones can be dislodged individually to conserve them and put to the side. Now, when you make this new widened window, there needs to be a little bit of an overcut so that once the new window is in, we can do a new stone wrap. Because if you notice that because of the thickness of the wall, the windows are inset, so you will need a new stone wrap. After the wall is cut, you overcut, and then you sort of wrap the stone around to achieve the same stone wrap at the vertical edges on each side of the window. And next slide, please. And now in some areas, we're proposing to enlarge the windows on the first floor. And so that differs a little bit from the enlargement at the second floor in that we would have to perform kind of a needle beam where you would need to support the wall above these windows prior to widening them, since it's not just a simple matter of the roof is the header. In this case, you've got a little bit of masonry wall above the windows, which you have to temporarily support. And in some cases, there might be a floor there that you would have to support as well. So in the case of these conditions, you would first needle beam through the wall in the location where we're going to remove it. In some cases, that's above the lintel stone that you see. So you would needle beam it first, and then you would remove the stone. Again, you would overcut a little bit to achieve the stone wrap. And the new header, the permanent header, I should say, can either be a steel beam or it could be a flitch beam, which is basically two wood beams with a steel plate in between to kind of keep it everything wood, and it's easier to anchor to that as well. So the new window frame would simply be a new header beam on new pressure treated jambs. And then once those elements are in, we can replace the lintel stone and replace the stone wrap on the side to match the existing wall condition. Next slide. Finally, the last type of alteration that I'd like to discuss briefly is the creation of the garage door opening, which is on the first floor. In this case, it's a pretty wide opening, and so our approach to this would be to create a double channel steel header condition where this, if you look at the section there, the way that works is you would remove about 4 to 5 inches of concrete from the inside face, grout and install one channel. And then once that's grouted and cured, then you would remove the stone on the outside face directly above the proposed garage door to create that double channel condition. And then those channels will be bolted together and create this header condition over the garage door. And the aspect of this procedure is that no shoring is required since it's being done one side at a time. So at no point will the wall lose stability, but you will always maintain some support of the wall above. And that's it for my description, and I'll hand it back to Rachel.
Thank you. In conclusion, I return to our proposed elevation for Flagg Place, where most of the proposed work is restorative, and that which is new is largely not visible from Flagg Place. Our proposal is for adaptive use. The proposed work represents what my client believes to be in the best interest of restoring, maintaining, and inhabiting the house for his long-term single-family residential use. The house, sadly, is in disrepair, which has only worsened within the past 2 years of my making site visits. Our proposal will restore the beauty, intended use, and spirit of Stone Court, in keeping with Flagg's design and his intentions. It is what my client requires for moving forward with the purchase. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Master, followed by Commissioner Goldblum, and then Commissioner Ginsburg.
Rachel, I thank you for all the work that you've done on this. It looks like you've kind of looked into it in a lot of detail. I guess my question is more to the situation. Given that before there was a development proposal, and now it's being converted or considered for single-family residential use. Can you speak to why the community board might have disapproved this?
You've asked me a very difficult question.
Well, I'm just surprised because I would think that they'd be thrilled.
May I ask my preservationist a quick question? I say this respectfully to everyone. My client wishes to remain anonymous for good reason. And the community board's land use committee, I think they're mostly used to working on land use issues and not landmarks issues. I've never worked with this community board before. They wanted to know who he was. And I think they felt it was an injustice not to know. And that seemed to be the big problem.
Okay, that seems, thank you. Let me ask you another question. I know that adjacent to this building is the seminary building, which is very modern and all that. It just seems odd to me that you're putting so much effort into the beautiful house and yet leaving that structure there, which is kind of an eyesore. It just doesn't seem to ring true. It seems odd to me.
That's sort of the burning issue here.
Okay.
So my client doesn't own this property yet, he hasn't put out the money yet. He knows that this is architecturally the important piece. He knows what he wants to do with this. That monstrosity, that 20,000 square foot institutional building, which served at institutional use, classrooms and things like that. It has a separate CLO. He hasn't even thought about what he wants to do. Knock it down? I don't know. Try to make use of it. It's kind of beyond, this was kind of all he could wrap his head around as far as if Landmarks gives me permission to do the things that I, Rachel Franco, have proposed today, then I'm in. And then he won't be able to walk away when he asks to do something moving forward, because he will be the owners, say for sell the property.
Okay, you can understand why it's just a little bit odd.
He truly, I mean, we've had some very, very abstract discussions about it, and he truly can't, he doesn't own the place yet. He truly is not going to invest that kind of bandwidth with time. He's a busy man, to say the least. And that's the honest answer. I can't tell you anything more. If he were here, he couldn't tell you anything more.
Okay, thank you.
I can't wait to get to phase 3. This is phase 2. I can't wait to get to phase 3.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Goldblum?
Couple of things. The second floor railing is proposed to be in aluminum. It looked pretty detailed. Can you get that level of detail in aluminum?
We believe we can.
Okay. The leaders on the courtyard side, on the entry side, they kind of stop before they hit the ground. Are they going inside?
The leaders, let's take a look on the courtyard side.
Yeah, there were a bunch of them that kind of come down about 2 or 3 feet off the ground, and then they just kind of stop.
Let's take a look. There is a cellar space with a kind of moat.
Correct. Bingo.
That's the west side.
Oh, that line's the grade line, and that's.
Yes.
So I was just reading.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
and that's why we don't sort of show anything, because there's no visibility.
This question's for you. Did you see these shakes, these plastic shakes? You real life anywhere?
So I got the sample of this yesterday,
Okay.
the shakes. I don't believe that we've approved this at any houses. Maybe Corey can chime in if he thinks otherwise.
No, I agree. I don't think we've been asked to review or approve this particular product, though we've certainly approved the synthetic slate and actually synthetic terracotta tile, similar polymer materials, but we haven't been asked to review this before. Thanks.
All right, Commissioner Ginsburg?
I'm looking at the elevations of the courtyard with the 2-story and 1-story space. And also there was a photo, and the existing 2-story space seems to have a stucco finish.
Hold on, let me get there. Are you looking at the one with the colored photographs? I'm going in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was white colored on the exterior that you were looking at in the courtyard?
Yes.
Yeah, so a lot of the stone has been whitewashed. And part of the staff level work that's being proposed as part of this is to remove that whitewash off the stone and only leave it where it historically was in the first phase of his development at the front Flagg Place facade on the first floor.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Vice Chair Bland?
You've said that the entire stone, all the stonework would be repointed.
Yes.
Would it need to be repointed if all of this masonry widening were not undertaken?
Yes.
So it needs to be repointed in its own right.
Yes. Helen, do you want to weigh in?
Yes, may I jump in? Yes. Yes, all of the joints are open. So we would need to repoint anyway. There have been also several repointing campaigns on the facade, and they're all failed and open as well. So we would need to point.
Repointing is not a result of the widening of the openings.
No.
Yes, Commissioner Jefferson.
I have kind of a history question. The building was built in 1898. and altered in 1907. Who altered it, Mr. Flagg?
Yes, yes, yep. There's a wonderful archive at the Avery Library. And it's not as dense as I would like it to be, and it's not all about Flagg, but there's a lot in there. And I've done a lot of research, and I cannot conclusively tell you dates for changes. But because, as you may know, we do have a Flagg expert here. One of the commissioners is a Flagg expert. I can't remember which one. Maybe he's not here today. Flagg was very interested in all kinds of things, not just beautiful Beaux-Arts architecture, for which he's best known. He was interested in what he called working man's housing. He was interested in building techniques. He was interested in zoning, tenement buildings. And he originally, I believe, owned 200 acres here. This is a very high area of Staten Island. And he used it as a quarry, as a forest, and experimented. And I think as soon as he kind of did one thing, he would decide here to, for instance, the whitewash. It's beautiful, but I think he quickly discovered the whole point of whitewash is it's an ongoing maintenance thing. And I think he realized this is massive. And when I put up these additions, let's just not do the whitewash. It's exhausting. And you can see how it fails. If you look at the photographs over time, you can see the dirt and everything. So if we keep it just on the first floor under the veranda, because right now it's covered with white paint, which doesn't look nice. On the veranda, it's sort of protected. It's not enormous. That is something my client can commit to. Thank you.
Okay, other questions? All right, if there are no other questions, I guess we'll close the hearing and move to our discussion. Commissioner Ginsburg, would you make a motion to close the hearing? Thank you. Vice Chair Bland, would you second that motion?
Sure.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? I realize the hearing was already closed. We just opened the proceedings, but now we've closed them. So this is a really special individual landmark, and there is a lot of work happening here. And the last time we saw this, I believe there were 8 of us present, and many supported much of the intent here. But we did have some specific concerns as were laid out in this presentation, including the roof material, wanting it to be a shingle type of material. At the swim tank, being comfortable with a standing seam if it restored the historic roof proportions and I think glass panes that might have been there historically. That the railing should match the historic railings, and that the window openings and dormers were too expansive, and we asked them to reduce those. Those included new openings and combining openings. And so we asked them to restudy the window proportions, and then there were concerns about how you create masonry openings within the fieldstone and whether that can be done safely. And so that today the applicant has come back with some responses. One is the proposed EnviroShake for most of the roof, and at the swim tank having a copper standing seam roof that has had its proportions restudied, and the reducing of the window openings, the ribbon windows to be single dormers, and reducing the width of other dormers and the window openings now to have alignments with the windows below. And then we've also heard, in addition to those responses, the applicant is also now proposing to raise the height of the ridges on the dependencies by 24 inches and to replace the columns in this cast fiberglass material that would be painted. And I forgot to note that the railings that we had asked match the historic, they are matching the historic details, but we'll do it in cast aluminum. And then finally, we did hear from the consultants on the treatment and recommendations for cutting the stone wall to create the openings to raise the ridge of the roofs and to create the new garage openings. So hopefully that answered some of the questions. So we'll begin our discussion. Commissioner Master, would you like, no, yeah, okay, Commissioner Goldblum, would you like to start?
Happy to defer to the staff member. It's a complex set of things that's being done to this lovely, very large building. And I think that I just gotta say, it's remarkable that somebody would invest in such a detailed architectural project without having bought the house yet. But I guess that's to that person's credit, I guess. But I don't remember seeing anything like that in the past. It's unusual. But I think that there's a lot to like about this proposal. I think that the restorative goals are generally good. I think on this facade, I think the improvements are significant. The modifications of the pool wing are okay. The copper roof. The copper roofs never really work at that very, very low slope, but that's kind of it's kind of just an aesthetic thing. But I think it's okay. You'll never really see it like this. My biggest concern on this facade is the use of alternative materials. I read somewhere that, firemen die because of all the plastic in modern buildings versus old wood buildings, which kind of burn slower and much less toxically. But that's kind of not our purview. The notion of plastic columns is kind of problematic to me, but I think if others were okay with it, I'd be okay with it as long as the staff looked at the details and made sure that they were good. The details of this are less than wonderful, the one that we have here, but there are other products, and if they can work with the manufacturer to make sure they're okay. But I think that the default for such significant architectural elements should be the use of original material. It also kind of boggles my mind. You've got a house that's made of wood with wood siding. You've got to be painting it anyway. So why not just paint the columns? But, okay. The same thing goes for the railing. In my experience, aluminum tends to be kind of blocky when it's used for a railing material. And this was a rather fine design that was rather distinctive. So I think that they should work with staff to make sure that's going to work out okay. I think that on the other side, on the courtyard side, I'm actually okay with the raising of the ridges of the side wings and with the modified window openings. I think that it actually will be acceptable from a historic perspective, as a restoration. I think that the stonework is fascinating. The process that Flagg used, very, very interesting. And I think with Jablonski on board, we can be assured that it's going to be done properly. The garage door opening was fine. It was kind of curious that they chose to span both, all the way across when they had a post in the middle, but that's up to them, I guess. Just make sure. There's a lot of window replacement going on here, and I think the staff comments are right that we got to make sure that is done correctly.
Commissioner Ginsburg.
In general, I think Commissioner Goldman has covered it well, that working with staff, on the new materials to make sure that the details can match the existing pretty exactly. And then also it sounds like the thought going through the expanded openings is good. And then I'd rather the roof line wasn't raised, but I realized when we said, let's not have those big dormers, you needed to do something. And so I can live with I think that's an acceptable compromise. And I agree with Commissioner Goldman, it's approvable.
I had one little thing I thought with the plastic roof shingles. I think the staff has to see them in a job where they're approved. I personally would rather see them go with slate, even though we said not to do that last time. I'd rather see them go with slate than with plastic that looks like plastic.
Okay.
I can agree with that too, but, so those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Bryan?
This slide has always been my favorite of the group of architects that practice and who build in our city. I think he's extraordinarily inventive and creative, and this house and the property was just so recently shows it. It was an experiment over time, constantly. And the house changed because of that all the time. But it changed by his hand. And somehow, I don't know how I got off on this, but I was thinking of another architect who practiced very differently, not so much in New York, but you heard it, Frank Lloyd Wright, and his house, and houses, his two houses, Taliesin and Taliesin West, and how different they are, and how each of those houses would be appropriately changed by Frank Lloyd Wright, but not by anybody else, I think. It would just be too earth-shaking. A group of people like us showing how to change those houses would be actually difficult, I think. But somehow this building uses a vernacular that is more familiar to us, is less idiosyncratic, is less inventive, let's call it more respectful of what was the norm at that time, even in its creativity. So all of this bumbling around in my brain leads me to believe that it is possible to make changes. This is, as the architect said, this is adaptive use, not reuse. Reuse, we might have even suggested ability to make more change in order to preserve this extraordinary individual landmark. But this is adaptive use. So first off, you wonder why are these changes? Do they really need to be changed? And because it's still a house. So it is as a house, thank goodness. Thank goodness they don't have that other proposal with the land chopped up, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot to like here. So, and we don't, can't get inside the head of the man who is proposing to live here. But I can accept the idea that 100 and some years later, 125 years later, even an adaptive use is appropriate. We don't live the way Ernest Flagg lived, and therefore these new changes that are being proposed, higher roofs, not a glass ceiling, over the sun count, et cetera, et cetera. These are acceptable kinds of changes. The widening of the walls, the widening of the masonry openings in the walls gave me pause, but the engineers elaborate, and I think, to me at least at this stage, convincing explanation of how that would be achieved. And the conservator from Jablonski also gave me reassurance that this has been taken so seriously, the whole thing. Seeing fiberglass columns, I would have said no, and then, but yet they offer a lot of, modern day technology has come a long way, and I thought maybe these columns might have been something that had been slide when I get to years, you might have said, yes, that's a brilliant idea. So anyway, I'm getting a little speculative here, but nonetheless, I guess I'm going to. So let me wrap up by saying, this has to be in the hands of our extraordinary staff, every step of the way, to be sure that these changes, such as the law, are achieved. And I would, as they've been reported and suggested to us today. So I think it really requires even more careful coordination with my staff. Regarding the shingles, I agree. They may well
look fine. We have to see that, and we have to see it in place. Not in this place, but someplace, and I will tell the staff, I mean, if we can do terracotta approvals, and we can do slate approvals with fake, which, maybe we can do this too, but it does have to look, it does have to look like shade. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. No, and I think also one note is that the house is so far set back from the place.
Yeah.
That, some of these materials may be less perceptible.
Absolutely.
Okay, Commissioner Lutfi?
I agree with, some of the comments here, so I'm just gonna speak to them. Look, I think it's great that this wonderful building is going to finally be restored in some way and put back to use, and as we've heard, it's going to be put back to use as the use that it was, which is fantastic. I do conceptually, though, this is an individual landmark. So I always feel like where changes are made, and it's a special house, that where we can use materials that are original provided, they make sense in the world from a safety and also from a durability standpoint. That would be my preference, because a restoration with changes should, to the best of its ability, in my opinion, try to incorporate as much original material, not only original material, but material that is similar to that. So, for example, I think it would be great if the railings could be wood. We approve that kind of thing all the time. And it seems like it makes sense to me. And from a durability standpoint, it should be fine. And in the ideal world, my preference would be not to have fiberglass columns, either to work with what's there or just figure out how to do it. So again, where possible, we're retaining original fabric. I don't have a problem with any of the changes to the swim tank. I think they work well, including the roof. And I struggled for a little while with the increases in the height to the roof lines, but I'm fine with it. I mean, I think the proportions haven't changed that much, and it doesn't compromise the building in any way at all. And I think some of the other changes that we requested in terms of slimming windows and reducing the number of windows on the facade, I think that works well. I do think that on the windows in general, and as has been said by my fellow commissioners, there are so many details here. They will need to be worked out with staff. I'm glad that the stone that is whitewashed is going to be, the whitewashing is going to be removed. And I just want to see if I have missed anything here. I think I've covered everything.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Maston?
So I just want to point out that, this isn't a residential house in a historic district. This is an individual landmark. And it's probably one of the most significant individual landmarks on Staten Island. It's an extremely beautiful estate and a beautiful building, and it's a gem. And I think we have to be very careful when we do anything to modify this building. That's why I think I'm going to come out a little bit differently and say, you know, I'm a little hesitant on the substitute materials in this situation for this incredible building. I know the other commissioners are more comfortable, but I don't know. I would prefer that we go to the wood railings. And I'm also not comfortable with raising the height. Because I think that even though we have great engineers, we're going to remove such historic material. And I think there's just such a big risk. And I don't think we can take that risk with this structure. It's an individual landmark. It's extremely important on Staten Island. And I understand that it's more convenient for the owner to raise the second floor, but there's just too much risk here. So I would have to say that we have to maintain and not raise the height of the walls. And the other thing I just want to note is I really hope it's such a beautiful building and a beautiful estate. But I really do hope that the individual who is purchasing this property is intending to use it as a single family residence.
Sarah, can I just add one thing that I forgot to mention? You know, on the roof, I'm not feeling enthusiastic about the new roofing materials, you know, to my points and some of the points that you made, Angie. And I know that we said no slate, but to me, that's at least a more natural material and one that also has durability. Maybe there's something else that they could look at with the staff that would make sense and really contribute to the integrity of this landmark, which I don't feel this new roof does. Commissioner Ginsburg?
I just want to add, I totally understand the concern, but wood shingle roofs do have some major problems. And one of the issues has been that the quality of wood you can get is much lower than it was 100 years ago because we cut down all our first grade forests. So I do understand and I do want the staff to see this in person somewhere to see what it looks like, but it may be not an unreasonable compliment.
But I'm not actually suggesting going back to the original.
You're saying go to slate.
Something close. Okay. I mean, and one thing I would point out is, as Corey mentioned, that we have approved alternatives, materials, including alternative slate, and terracotta, even on individual landmarks. And I think, you know, we're not dealing with removal of historic fabric of this roof. So I do think the way one perceives the roof, if staff can verify and feel that it looks like shingle, that to me seems less, sort of more consistent and maybe less detrimental to the integrity than perhaps the columns. To me, those are features that are right on the face of the building. So I think it's a question of a little bit of prioritization, but understand the general sense about alternative materials. Commissioner Jefferson?
So yesterday, I spent some time trying to analyze this extraordinary design. And I started to look at it as a exercise of analysis, the value, the pieces added. And then the question I was trying to answer was, whether the 2 feet didn't make a difference. You know, in my mind, it must make a difference, right? It has to be 2 feet is quite good. So I kind of walked around the building because of photographs and the elevations, and I couldn't see any difference. You know, I saw some, but I couldn't see where the inhabitants wanted to have 7'6" to go to 8'6". It made that much of a difference. And I do agree with that landmarks are landmarks the way they should. But in this case, as you moved around the building and you saw pieces of it shifting, this is a dominant facade. You know, it could come in, whether it was subordinate facades, so I could accept that. And I think I totally agree that all the materials should be, not really not word. It should be, I mean, we spend all this time to fix it up and use raw materials for that. And those are my comments.
Okay. All right, so I think, and I know that Commissioner Master, you have concerns about raising the roof. I think that for other commissioners here, the fact that it's on the dependencies is, and also very minimally visible as you walk around the property from the public way. I think most commissioners feel that doesn't compromise the overall proportions, although I do understand your concerns. Oh, she has been out for this item. Yeah, thanks. And, but I think that there's been a general concern about the use of materials. So I think we can do a motion to approve this project contingent upon the applicant further studying the use of original materials where possible and limiting the amount of substitute materials, and that any substitute materials be reviewed and approved by staff to ensure that they match the historic details, and that further all of the window details be reviewed carefully with the staff. And I think we might be there then.
Okay. Regarding 209 Flagg Place, the Ernest Flagg House, an individual landmark. The application is to alter facades, modify roof lines and openings, installing windows, and replace roofing. I note, the architect, almost Flagg designed and built his own residence and continually added to the massing, experimenting with new technologies and roof materials. He altered the style and appearance of the mansion between its original construction in 1898 through completion in 1917. Therefore, some alterations to the building in order to improve energy efficiency and mobility will continue this evolution, but the relationship of the natural site conditions, including planets and topography and architecture, is an important aspect of Flagg's designs, and the proposal maintains the broad sloped front yard to the south of the mansion, minimizing additional driveway paving for access to the garage and locating mechanical units to the less visible north and east yards. They're removing vinyl siding throughout the mansion will eliminate unsympathetic alterations. A new wood clapboard siding will follow the horizontal weaving of the siding visible in historic photographs. The removal of the whitewash and paint at select locations at the mansion and additions will aid in the long-term preservation of the underlying fieldstone, and with the limited reinstallation of traditional whitewash at the ground floor, the Flagg Place facade of the central mansion will return it closer to its historic appearance circa 1907. But the enlarged masonry openings and widened dormers will be consistent with the punched openings typically found at this building, and will not significantly alter the high solid to void ratio of the masonry facades, and will retain most of the historic roof eaves. But the east and west facing facades of the wings and pavilion at the end of the swimming pool wing are less visible from the public thoroughfare through heavy foliage, and are not as strongly related to the central portion of the mansion and the axial orientation that was key to Flagg's design. Therefore, the addition of a masonry opening for wood roll-down garage doors and new enlarged dormers and changes to the window configuration and operation will not diminish Flagg's overall design intent. But all of the roofing and the majority of the windows throughout all facades have been replaced over time, including the later installation of colored and stained glass windows at the west wing. Therefore, replacing these elements will improve energy efficiency without removing a significant amount of historical fabric. The proposed windows featuring ribbon-clad wood multi-wide outswinging casements at visible locations, single-out casements at below-grade openings will recall historical configurations in black finish And the change in materials and configuration will not be perceptible from the public thoroughfare or detract from the facades. With shed dormers, the typical feature employed by Flagg both at this mansion and other buildings he designed, residential ones. Therefore, the addition of small dormers that will simply design these west facades will make the buildings consistent with the designs while improving light and ventilation. For replacing the railings at the porch and widow's wall at Flagg Place will not eliminate historic fabric. With the new railings featuring a simple picket with newel posts at the widow's wall and ornamental detailing of the porch will improve the safety at these locations to match the finish and design of the historic railings. With the installation of low fieldstone clad landings and steps with single purple railings to Flagg Place facade, the east and west wings will retain the symmetry at these wings and not be perceptible from the public thoroughfare. But the proposed roofing at the central mansion east prevailing wings will recall historic wood shingles in terms of texture, color, and shadow lines from the beautiful distance and will bring the mansion closer to its historic appearance. With the elimination of a flat roof, the swimming pool wing, and installation of copper steel and seam metal roofing at the pitched roof will aid in water drainage and recall historic ribbed roofing or skylights visible in historic images. However, the applicant will work with staff to review these proposed synthetic materials and replace them with natural materials where possible. But the applicant will work with staff on the roofing material to either verify that it is in fact sufficiently similar in appearance to wood shakes or to develop an alternative proposal for a different material.
Which may include slate, which I think we've heard some people.
Which may include slate. But the railings and porch columns be reconstructed in wood to match historic material. And the applicant will have staff and details of replacement windows to match historic dimensions and details as closely as possible.
Commissioner Ginsburg, would you second that motion?
Chair Carroll.
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg. Aye. Commissioner Bland. Aye. Commissioner Goldblum. Aye. Commissioner Jefferson. Aye. Commissioner Lutfi. Aye. Commissioner Master.
Nay.
6 in favor, 1 opposed. The motion passes.
So that's approved, but please continue to work with the staff on the materials and details. Thank you. We'll move to the next item.
Now move to the public hearing agenda. First item is public hearing item number 1, LPC 24-01900. It's an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the borough of Brooklyn, block 216, lot 37, 67 Cranberry Street in the Brooklyn Heights Historic District. It's a Greek revival style row house built in 1840, and the application is to enlarge a rear yard addition.
Good morning, Commissioners, Richard Lai, Preservation Staff. I will be presenting the proposal, and Darwin Poblete of Rise Projects is here to answer any questions. Here is the subject property. I just note that no work is proposed in the front facade. The building is located in the Brooklyn Heights Historic District. And as you can see, number 67 Cranberry Street is located on the southern portion of the block. The proposal is for a 3rd story of an existing 2-story rear addition. And it's here because the addition is deeper and taller than the predominant pattern of rear additions within the block. And a portion of the rear addition will be visible through a break in the building line from Middle Street. If you can see number 72 directly opposite, there's a little break on the left there that portion will be visible. And the commission previously approved a 3-story rear addition at 72 Middle Street at a public hearing in 2014. And here's just an aerial showing the context. And this is some of the shots of the property prior to some renovations that were done in 2008. Then there was an existing three-story rear addition. A staff level permit was issued to rebuild it. It's the same massing but a different design. This was prior to a rule change that required contextual, basically compared to the predominant pattern within the block. Unfortunately, in 2009, just before they had finished, a fire broke out. And there was an amendment issued to basically reduce the scope due to a lack of funds. So they maintained it as a two-story rear addition, but to the same depth. These are the approved drawings for the rear for the three-story and the section. This is what was built. So the one on the right shows the rear addition, the two-story with a fairly tall parapet wall. And then the one on the right shows the rear facade. Just to give you some context of other rear additions in the donut, and you can see directly opposite in the center picture, there's a three-story modern addition that was approved by the Commission in 2014. So this is the existing rear elevation and rear addition and the proposed. So they're continuing the brick cladding, going with simpler Frenched openings, 3 bays with multi-light casement windows, and then railings and a parapet wall at the top. They will be modifying one of the windows at the top floor of the rear facade by dropping the sill and installing a door, but that is meet the staff level rules. Just an axon diagram and section diagram, just showing the changing of the massing. So we're adding about 64 inches to the main massing of the rear addition for that extra floor. And then the parapets and the railings, an additional 49 inches on top of that. And just a more detailed version of the section. Context of Middle Street, fire station that's near 72 Middle Street. And then that's to break in the building line at 72 Middle Street. And a zoomed in version on the right, just showing you that top right corner of the existing addition and where the new proposal, the additional floor will be visible. And just a very detailed version of the section. That's it. So I'll hand it over to Darwin if you have any other questions.
Are there any questions? Yes, Vice Chair Bland.
Was the approval for the three-story building the same depth?
Yes.
So the only thing that was not done in that approval was the third story. Is that, okay.
And the third story that's being proposed now has a traditional fenestration pattern as opposed to the approved design.
Right. Okay.
Okay. I think Commissioner Ginsburg and then Commissioner Jefferson.
Some of the new windows on the new addition don't seem to line up with either the windows above or the windows below. Is there a reason for that?
We centered it on the plan or in the bedroom of the addition. So that's how we work the locations of those 3 windows. So we wanted it sort of more centered. And it worked better also on the floor plan of the interior.
Okay, Commissioner Jefferson.
Thanks. I'm looking at your section A009. And the existing window, is it set back?
It is set back. So they're not on the same plane.
And so there's a shadow line around that.
What?
And the new windows, yeah.
Yes, the new window will be on the base of the existing parapet.
Excuse me, can you state your name for the record? Darwin Poblatin from Rise Projects. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions? All right, I know we have some testimony, so we'll go to testimony. We may have more questions after that. Judy Stanton.
Thanks, Gregory. Judy Stanton speaking for the Brooklyn Heights Association. We suggest modifying the design to improve the transition between the existing addition and the proposed enlargement on top. We are sympathetic to the unique circumstances. The current rear facade is awkward because the previously approved large glassy addition was not fully built due to the fire. We support the applicant's attempt to improve the existing condition. However, we think the proposal for a continuous brick facade and traditional 6/6 windows will continue to look awkward. The continuous brick will not sufficiently distinguish between enlargements built at different times. Yet simultaneously, the window types of the two sections will contrast too much. We think the applicants have a variety of options to achieve a more graceful transition as follows. A distinguishing course of brick or other masonry between the existing addition and the enlargement. A slightly adjusted plane for the rear of the enlargement. Window openings in the enlargement that more closely adhere to the ADA pattern established by the existing addition, and or 1/1 windows for the enlargement that contrasts less with the existing addition's expansive single glass assemblies. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room who wishes to speak on this item? Noting that there is not, I will turn it over to Gregory Kara to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. We have one hand raised on the attendees list, that being Lucy Levine from the Historic Districts Council. Lucy Levine, I'm promoting you to panelist right now. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Hi, Commissioners. My name is Lucy Levine. I'm speaking on behalf of the Historic Districts Council. HDC finds this application inappropriate. The project renders the existing rear addition 1 story too high. The top 2 floors of the existing rear should be maintained. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I do not see any further hands raised, so I will note for the record that Brooklyn Community Board 2 recommends approval with the requested stipulation that the applicant continue to discuss the design and height of the parapet wall with the Brooklyn Heights Association. And with that, I'll bring it back to you, Chair Carroll.
And thank you. I'd like to ask if you'd like to respond to the comments we've heard. And the Brooklyn Heights Association in particular had some specific suggestions you might want to discuss.
And we appreciate the comments and input. In terms of the first comment, I want to again reiterate, it was also asked that the more modern addition is not on the same plane as the new windows that we're proposing. And it's also not visible, the modern addition on the street. So the sliver that you will see are the new windows that we're proposing. We did go from 12 lights to 8 lights to try and harmonize it more with the windows above it. All of the bedroom windows in the front have 12 lights. So, you know, again, from the feedback that we heard, we took a look at the design again and sort of modified that in response to those comments. So.
Okay. Commissioners, any final questions? And I guess just since the Brooklyn Heights Association also questioned using the same brick and whether you'd be able to match it.
It's the same brick that was used below is still in production, and that's what we specified for the new work.
Okay. All right. Any other final questions, commissioners? Okay, let's move to close the hearing. Commissioner Master, would you make a motion to close the hearing? So moved. Thank you. Commissioner Jefferson, would you second that motion? So second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the hearing is closed and we'll begin our discussion. And as we've heard, this is a property that had a pre-existing 3-story rear yard addition and had a prior commission approval to replace that with a new three-story rear yard addition that would have a modern design. And subsequent to that, there was a fire and only 2 stories were built. And they are coming back to reclaim their 3rd floor. And since then, there's been a rule change that for technicality reasons has limited the rule change limits what the staff can approve. And so it's before us today to reclaim that 3rd floor. And we've heard testimony about the size and also suggestions on the design. So we'll begin our discussion. Vice Chair Brown, would you like to start this one?
Sweet home. So this is not seen from the public way, except for that little sliver from middle, which is as sliverish as one can get, I think, in terms of visibility. And I listened to the ratio testimony carefully, and if I think I heard unusually they were arguing perhaps for limiting the mountains, which is an unusual position often to take. But and you know, and to me, I just don't think it's critical. This is not visible for the most part, and I think that what they're asking us is something that we have approved once before in a slightly different form. So I think this is approvable as presented.
Commissioner Ginsburg?
I agree. I would ask the applicant to look at trying to round the windows up a little bit with a light, just because I find I understand your logic, but I find it disconcerting, but I find this approvable.
Commissioner Goldman?
I agree. I gotta say, it's kind of the first rear yard addition that I can remember where it kind of looks like the old thing is on top of a new thing. And it's definitely but you know, as you know, viewing it at from a broader lens, you know, the backs always were and still are more informal, more, you know, erratic. And I think that it certainly has that quality to it. It looks kind of like a little bit of a mashup, but I think that given the normal flexibility that we display for its rear yard additions, I think this falls well within the parameters of those and is appropriate.
Okay, thank you. And I think also you could mention that this is a varied block with many different building types. So I think that while it's taller than the additions on the adjacent row houses, it fits within the larger context. Commissioner Jefferson? Okay. Commissioner Master? Appropriate. And Commissioner Lutfi? Appropriate. Okay, so I think we have enough to approve it as is. And Vice Chair. Oh, I'm sorry. And you did rejoin us now.
I did. It's appropriate.
We're comfortable with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's appropriate, yes.
Thank you.
So in another 67 Cranberry Street, the Brooklyn Historic District, this is an application to enlarge a rear yard addition. I note that the building's scale, style, materials, and details or features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of Brooklyn Heights Historic District. I recommend approval, noting that the proposed work will not eliminate or damage any significant architectural features. That the proposed enlarged rear addition will not rise to the full height of the rear facade, and the top floor will be retained, thereby preserving the sense of the building's original massing and its relationship to others in the row. That the proposed enlargement will maintain the existing footprint of the lower floor and will not diminish the central green space. But only a portion of the rear addition will be visible from a public thoroughfare through a gap in the street wall at a distance from limited at a distance from limited lettering points and the context of secondary facades. That the brick clad rear addition feature and punched mason openings will feature a level of articulation materials, palette and ratio of solid to wood, consistent with other readditions found in buildings of this type within the historic district, and that the work will not affect, will not detract from significant architectural features of the building or the historic district.
Thank you. Commissioner Lutfi, would you second the motion? John, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll.
Aye.
Vice Chair Brand.
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg. Aye. Commissioner Goldberg. Commissioner Holford Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson.
Aye.
Commissioner Lutfi.
Aye.
Commissioner Master.
Aye.
In favor, none opposed, the motion passes.
All right, so that's approved. Thank you. But then if you do want to explore aligning those windows above or below, that's, I think, a worthwhile suggestion, but it is approved as is. Okay, thank you.
Right, we now move to the next item, public hearing item number 2, LPC 23-07712, an application for certificate of appropriateness in the borough of Brooklyn, lot 1917, lot 6, 280 Washington Avenue in the Clinton Hill Historic District. This is a Queen Anne style house designed by Marshall J. Morrow and built in 1887. The application is to construct a garage building and a rear yard addition, and to legalize removal of ironwork without LPC permits. Oops. Good morning. My name is Satori from Murdoch Stone Architects, presenting the project of 282 Washington today. So Washington in Clinton Hill. Its address is on 282 Washington, but it's the particular it is a through lot, and then our proposal work is mainly on Waverly side, which is the back side of the house. The traditional Waverly Avenue was worked as almost like an alley, service alley for the Washington and Clinton Avenue on either side of the block. Those are have made larger townhouses, mansions, etc. And then so actual streets now on the Waverly side as well. And we are trying to two separate constructions. One is the extension of the mudroom directly behind the existing structure, existing main house as a mudroom. And secondary, we would like to construct a new garage, one-story garage for the main house. We found this document that a Clinton Hill district book showed essentially explaining us how the street worked as an alleyway for carriage houses in the street earlier. There were into debates, but so now that it's most of the house on Washington are more higher profile. Let's say that it's townhouses, the back, which is a really smaller garage, smaller structure, some apartments, but again, original carriage house been converted to some sort of garage space or shop. It's a street of Waverly. Some houses are still being used as a residential, and some one-story structure being converted to garage or so. And that was the drawing. So this is the main building, the back of the rear yard extension for the mudroom for the main house. Currently, there's just a little landing, staircase and landing serving directly to the kitchen. As we are renovating inside of the house itself, our client requested us to extend just a couple of square feet of mudroom just to service their needs. Elevationally, it doesn't really change much. We're extending that portion of that
facade, that it's extending forward. So it doesn't really tell much of the story here, but it's in the rendering, one on the right is existing condition, has a little metal landing at the back. We're extending that bay forward for about 12 feet or so to create that mudroom/second entry for the house. Which, by the way, the extension is not visible from the street once the garage is erected, but it's still the exterior work on this. So on the rear end of the property, this was actually filed and approved by Landmarks under previous owner. I think it's approved in 2007 or so. So it's metal gate and fences enclosed the backside of the house. However, this was approved, but previous owner did not build this, and this is the existing condition. They have built this wooden enclosure. It's not a garage; it's just a carport with a trellis on top. But this was obviously violation of the Landmarks permit. The current owner, our client, actually bought this place, the property as it is a few years ago. This was how they essentially adopted it. So we're here now to demolish this condition that it doesn't fit or doesn't meet the Landmarks approval, but we're essentially replacing with the proper garage structure. The garage structure / some utility spaces, owner's entertainment, but it's mostly bike storage, garbage, and some shop, and a little outdoor, like an entertaining area that is just served for in the backyard, and then the potential just the roof access to the garage itself for the owner's use. And then this is the rear facade that we proposed. There's a the idea is that this used to be two-bay carriage house, or then we converted in some point into a pedestrian door on the left side and convert right one into the garage door, overhead garage door. And then this is, so obviously this is all brand new, but this idea is conceptual that is like we inherited the brick building and converted inside to a current use. And this is the back of it, which is faces back of the garage. So it faces the main house, which is obviously not exposed to the street at all, but just showing there for reference. In terms of the architectural language and material fabric, we're picking up some language from the street, same street, same block. Two buildings in the bottom two are eastern end of northern end of the same block. And then we also saw a picture on the upper right, which is not in this Clinton Hill, but we conceptually we thought it was something similar in scale. The two-bay garage being converted to residential use. And also we're picking up a Roman brick, the proportion flat proportion brick from another building. It's actually Waverly Avenue, excuse me, the 239 Waverly Avenue has a Roman brick masonry wall. And so we're also picking up the colorway of the actual neighboring building of the brick as well. And then ironwork that you're trying to use for the side fence, side yard fence, is that spade shape is actually coming from the front side of our property. The 280 Washington facing Washington side, the gate has that spade shaped element. So we try to make that into the side yard fence, and also picking up the some brick and fence, metal fence combination walls on the Waverly Avenue. So the bottom half is brick and top half is the metal work. So we use that element to make the side yard fence. So this is how it's proposed, rendered. The red brick with a Roman proportion red brick, and then a wood
window system, a window and door system for the pedestrian door, and then similar proportioned overhead garage on the right side. And this is the rendering of the back, before and after. Again, this is not visible, but we just did it for the reference. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any questions, commissioners? All right, not seeing any questions. We'll see if we have public testimony. Is there anyone in the room who wishes to speak on this item? Noting that there isn't, I will turn it over to Gregory Kala to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. We have a few hands raised in the attendees list. The first we'll be hearing from is Rosario Sinisi. Rosario Sinisi, I am promoting you to panelist right now. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
My name is Rosaria Sinisi. I represent Citizens for Responsible Neighborhood Planning of Clinton Hill and Fort Greene. CRNP recommends approval of the proposed mudroom extension, but a rethinking of the design of the new garage's facade facing Waverly Avenue. 280 Washington Avenue is a majestic mansion built in 1887, which almost undoubtedly originally had a carriage house. The proposed new building would create a new primary facade at 261 Waverly Avenue on the western end of this property. However, the design proposed combines its 2 arched facade openings, which refer to the celebrated Beaux-Arts carriage houses further north on this block, built in 1899, with mismatched designs filling those arches and a notched roof line last seen in an LPC proposal for 1 Cambridge Place, at least for Clinton Hill, in an extension built in 1919. These elements should be harmonized in a more stylistically cohesive whole. For example, if the arched openings are preserved, the roof line would be more contextual if it were horizontal, with a cornice resembling those in the Beaux-Arts carriage houses. If the proposed notch roof line were preserved, the arches below it would be more appropriate if rectangular, like those in other non-Beaux-Arts carriage houses on the same block. Further, the applicant has not presented a section view showing how much of the rear of the mansion would be visible from the western sidewalk of Waverly Avenue above the roof of the proposed garage. If the dome of the mansion's presumed conservatory extension would be visible, it would provide a jarring contrast with the notched roof line. In that case, a horizontal garage roof line and cornice would be more appropriate. CRNP therefore recommends that LPC refer the design of the garage facade for more consideration that would make it both more contextual with its surroundings and more cohesive as a whole. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next up, we'll be hearing from Jeremy Woodall from the Victorian Society of New York. So Jeremy Woodall, I've just promoted you to panelist. Please state your name and unmute your line, and you will have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jeremy Woodoff speaking for the Victorian Society, New York. Founded in New York City in 1966, the Victorian Society in America is dedicated to fostering the appreciation and preservation of our 19th and early 20th century heritage. The New York chapter promotes preservation of our historic districts, individual and scenic landmarks, interiors, and civic art. The Victorian Society is happy to support the proposed changes at 280 Washington Avenue. No significant historic material will be removed to allow construction of the new mudroom, the garage, or the proposed garden walls. The materials the applicant has selected are similar to those found within this historic district. The Roman brick seems an especially nice choice and will add interest to the streetscape. The scale and detailing of the garage are well developed. It will complement the fine historic garages and carriage houses on this street without drawing attention away from them. And the section of the north garden wall, brick with iron cresting, which will be visible from Willoughby, will be a decided improvement over the existing worn wooden fence or pergola you now see. We note the vast and positive difference between this proposal and the one we testified against last December, which was nevertheless approved, for a 5-car garage on the same street in this historic district. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. And next up, we will be hearing from Lucy Levine from the Historic Districts Council. Lucy Levine, I am promoting you to panelist right now. Please state your name for the record and unmute your line. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
My name is Lucy Levine. I'm speaking on behalf of the Historic Districts Council. We commend this lovely proposal. It is appropriate and well executed. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I did not see any further hands raised, so I will note for the record that Manhattan Community Board 2 recommends conditional approval, and that those conditional approval with the stipulation that the parapet should be at a uniform height, and consider reducing the parapet height and adding an ornamental railing. And with that, I will bring it back to you, Chair Carroll.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like to ask if you'd like to respond to some of the testimony, in particular, some of the design suggestions.
We certainly bring back to the owner on the suggestion and how they respond to it, but I think they're reasonable comments, and so I'm sure that we'll be happy to change our design. And
okay, so I think what might be helpful for us today, and to maybe allow us to be able to actually take an action, is if you could just maybe talk a little bit more about how your design relates to the streetscape.
It is, it's currently quite an eyesore, so we're really happy that we were able to replace the existing condition with something that's definitely more contextual than we believe. And then also this relates to 282 Washington, obviously the building. So we like to keep it in sort of coherent to the certain language, but also the quality of the work too. So we like to make sure that the house will represent, it is a garage, but it should represent what the house on the front side.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Commissioner Jefferson.
I have a question. I'm looking at page 001, and then above that, there's a mudroom extension rendering. Right, that you have. It's called mudroom extension rendering. There. The wall that on the right hand side, you see a wooden wall. Yes. Are you changing the wall?
Yes, we are taking that down as well.
Are you putting a fence on top?
Yes.
So it's a lower brick wall.
Yeah. Currently, the wall is too high for the code as well, so that's a violation. So we are actually taking that.
Is that obviously previously?
Sorry. And so right now, the condition that exists is not legal and it is too high per code. So they're proposing a wall that's lower that would meet code.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Any of those? Okay, so let's close the hearing. Commissioner Alfred Smith, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Lutfi, would you second that motion? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we'll begin our discussion, and this proposal has really 2 components. One is this mudroom extension adjacent to the existing rear yard pavilion extension, and which would not be visible once the proposed garage is constructed on Waverly Place. And that is the second component of the application, is the height, scale, design, and massing of that new structure. So we'll begin our discussion. Commissioner Ginsburg, would you like to start this one?
Sounds good. So I think the mudroom is fine. I don't have any issues with that. I'm looking at the elevation of the street that the garage is on. That was so, although I probably can approve it, I'm curious what other commissioners say. When I look at that and everything around it, it seems in a sense, over detailed and a little fussy. And I actually think that if you looked at the facade, your other facade would be more appropriate on the street in not having the arches, et cetera, because there is one arch way down the street, but I think I'll be curious what other commissioners say, but that may be more my personal preference than what's appropriate.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Bland?
I'm with HTC. A lovely scheme. I like it a lot, the way it is, and I think we'll see plenty of that little arched detailing in carriage houses in this district, even I think on the street. So I think it's very well done.
Okay. Commissioner Lutfi? I agree. I mean, the use is appropriate for the street. The most important thing, they are eliminating this eyesore on the street. And even better, replacing it with something that is attractive and highly appropriate. I think the details relate very, very well to what is on the street. I like the arch doors. I conceptually like how they married, the garage entry with the pedestrian entry. I think the mudroom works really well, and the replacement of the wall is a major improvement, and the ironwork is it relates to what's been there in the district historically. I think it's a terrific project. Okay, thank you, Commissioner Master.
Yes, I think that the the addition is very modest, and it's not visible. The garage is a big improvement to what was there before. So I would agree that it's approvable.
Okay. Commissioner Jefferson?
The bedroom is well done. I think the garage facade, the edge of the building is traditional movable inside. This is beautiful, the space that they created, and it's just wonderful.
Okay. Commissioner Goldman?
I agree, it's appropriate.
Okay. Commissioner Holford Smith?
I agree. Very well done.
Okay. All right. So I think we have enough to support this. Commissioner Ginsburg, if you're comfortable making a motion. Okay.
With regards to LPC 23-07712, 280 Washington Avenue, Clinton Hill District. I note that the building style, scale, material, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Clinton Hill Historic District. I also note that the Waverly Avenue was primarily developed as service street for the mansion on Clinton and Washington Avenue, and historically contained carriage house, stables, and service buildings. I recommend approval, finding that the demolition of the existing trellis structure and fence constructed without LPC permits will not eliminate any significant historic features, that the design and materiality of the proposed garage featuring red brick cladding and black finished windows and doors will be in keeping with other garages and carriage houses within the streetscape in terms of its mass and alignment with the street wall composition, materials, and finishes. That the pedestrian vehicular door will feature wood and metal panels and detailing which will recall garage infill typically found throughout the historic district. That the expansion of the first floor of the existing rear extension is modest in scale, will match the existing in terms of materiality, and will not project further into the rear yard than the existing addition, thereby maintaining the central green space. That the rear extension will not be visible from any public thoroughfare should the garage be constructed. That the historic ironwork that was removed in non-compliance was not representative of the unique design or exceptional craftsmanship. that the proposed red brick wall with crowning ironwork is typical rear yard treatment in this historic district, that the design of the proposed ironwork is based on historic ironwork at the Washington Avenue areaway, and the work will not diminish the special architectural and historic character of the historic district.
Thank you. And Vice Chair Bland, would you second that motion?
Second.
John, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll.
Aye.
Vice Chair Bland.
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg. Aye. Commissioner Goldblum.
Aye.
Commissioner Beaufort Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson.
Aye.
Commissioner Lutfi.
Aye.
Commissioner Master.
Aye.
8 in favor, 9 opposed, the motion passes.
Right, that's approved. Thank you. We'll move to the next item.
Next item is public hearing item number 3, LPC 24-04151, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, block 1982, lot 58, 64 Downing Street in the Clinton Hill Historic District. This is an Italianate style row house designed by Babcock and Sturgis, built circa 1868 to 70, and the application is to construct a rear yard addition.
Good morning, everyone. My name is, I had to check the time to see if it's still morning. My name is David Rassua, and here with me is our project manager, Cindy Goldman. We are proposing a 2-story plus basement addition in the rear yard of 64 Downing Street in hopes to maximize the floor area of this property. On this page, you can see the maps of Clinton Hill Historic District. On the left is the current map, and the right side is the map created at the time of designation. You can see the location of 64 Downing Street, which is located at the southeastern border of this historic district. Next page, please. That's it. Okay. This page you have the 1940s tax photo and the photo of the current front facade showing that there have been some few changes and deterioration of facade elements over the years. We are working at the staff level to address all front facade work. The proposed addition in the rear yard is completely within all zoning regulations, and we have resolved all zoning objections with New York City Department of Buildings. The existing / demo section shows we are removing existing brick wall at the rear, except for the 3rd story, for the proposed 2-story plus basement addition at the rear, which you can see at the proposed section. We're also proposing a metal deck and stairs from the 1st floor out to the rear yard. At the cellar, we are going to be excavating in order to provide the required amount of headroom. We are proposing this to be done with a step footing in order not to disturb any of the neighbors' foundations. In this page, on the top, we have the diagram of the block plan with the heights of all buildings on the block, as well as the number of stories of all rear yard addition. There's a mix of basement, 1-story plus basement, and 2-story plus basement additions throughout this block. Please keep in mind that in this plan, it appears that there is an opening at Gates Avenue, over here. And there might be some concern about visibility of our proposed addition. We have checked this and we have determined that this rear yard addition is absolutely not visible from any public thoroughfare. Below is also a satellite view from Google showing the block in its full context. Within this block, there are several multi-story rear yard additions that are already existing. There are 3 additions as shown in large on the right side that also have a 2-story plus addition. So as you can see in this picture, they refer to these 3 yellow. The additions. There are also 7 other buildings with 1-story plus basement enlargement within our shared building. We feel that our proposed 2-story plus basement enlargement would fit with the overall context of the block and shared green space. Here are the existing and proposed front elevation of our building along with the adjacent properties. And as I mentioned, we're currently working at the staff level to obtain approval for all the proposed work on this facade. The existing and proposed rear elevations are shown here along with the adjacent properties. As you can see here, the top 2 stories of each building all have 3 window openings, which we are maintaining with this enlargement. Also, our proposed metal deck at the 1st story matches the design of our neighbor's house, number 62, this deck. We are retaining all the elements of the 3rd story. The painted brick facade and the ornate brickwork at the top is to remain. The sizing of windows, arc lintels, and protruding stone sills are to remain, with the exception of the center window sill, which is to be dropped for the installation of a door to the proposed roof terrace. The proposed 2-story plus basement enlargement will have a stucco facade. At the second story, we are keeping the sizing and spacing of the existing windows to try and match with the rest of the neighboring buildings. We'll recreate the arch lintels and include the protruding stone window sills. All proposed windows will be 1/1 double hung aluminum windows with a black finish. At the 1st floor, we're proposing to join the 2 windows to have 1 large sliding glass door to be proposed to access the metal deck. We're also proposing the same size sliding glass door at the basement level to match the 1st floor. Both doors will be aluminum frame with a black finish to match the windows. In this page, we have a rough mock-up of the size of the proposed rear addition. And in this page, you can see the proposed rendering of this rear facade and 2-story plus basement enlargement. The proposed color of the stucco is a light pink color in order to match the color of the existing painted brick. The top story will be repainted to match the color of the proposed stucco and the existing color of brick. As you can see, the railing at the roof terrace and at the deck will be simple black metal railing. All windows and doors will be aluminum with black finish as mentioned before. In this slide, you can see the rendering of both sides of the proposed addition, which will be a stucco finish, and it will be the same color as the rear facade. We have also conducted sightline studies and have found that this proposed 2-story plus basement enlargement is not visible from any public thoroughfare, as the block is mostly comprised of row houses. We have also attached the proposed plans in the appendixes that was attached, I guess it's not here. And in case you would like to see them, please let us know if you have any questions, suggestions. We are open to all of it.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioners, do we have any questions? Yes, Commissioner Lutfi.
The rear facades of the buildings there, are they mostly painted brick?
So as you can see in this photo, it's actually deteriorated painted brick.
But I mean, it would like the buildings to either side of your building.
So on the right side, I believe there's a stucco finish, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have Cindy Goldman step in because she is the project manager. I was just trying to help out.
Just state your name again for the
Cindy
record.
Goldman. Most of the block is painted brick. There have been some additions on this donut that had a stucco and or like it's hard to tell, stucco or a full color scheme of the rear facade. Number 48 on this block actually has all of the dark gray refinished. It was recently approved.
Right, and the donut's largely intact.
What do you mean by largely intact?
Not that much has been built, not that high. So I mean, that's
Yes,
what, yeah,
it's
yeah,
definitely less than 50%.
Okay.
Has had the enlargement.
thank you. All right, other questions? And let's see if we have any testimony. And I'll note that there is no one in the room to speak on this item, so I'll turn it over to Gregory to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. We have one hand raised in the meeting, that being Lucy Levine from the Historic Districts Council. Lucy Levine, I'm promoting you to panelist right now. And if you could please unmute your line and state your name for the record, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lucy Levine. I'm speaking on behalf of the Historic Districts Council. HDC finds this rear yard addition to be inappropriate. HDC believes that rear yard extensions to row houses should leave the top 2 floors of any given row house largely intact unless there is precedent in the immediate vicinity for more bulk. There's no such precedent at this location, which makes the proposed addition 1 story too high. Additionally, we feel strongly that renovations of this scale should require the restoration of the building's cornice to the street facade, which would both protect the facade and enhance the urban fabric. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your testimony. And Chair, so we also have Nathan Rambod from.
Yeah, hi.
Okay, so,
Okay, if you're the owner, just hang on, we'll come back to you.
okay, and that is all for public testimony. And I will also note that Brooklyn Community Board 2 recommends approval. And I'll bring it back to you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we've heard from Brooklyn Community Board 2 supporting the application and the Historic Districts Council recommending that it be lowered on floor. So I'd like to hand back to you and also give the owner an opportunity to respond to the comments. So if the owner would like to speak, you can do so now. Just state your name for the record.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Nathan Rambot. I want to take this time to appreciate the time that the community gave us. I want to say that I want to do I do appreciate landmark. I do appreciate the historical. I do appreciate the details and original things. When we do renovation on the properties, we always try to create charm, and it costs us a lot more to do it, but we do appreciate it. We buy old fireplaces, we put it in, or even the moldings, and we try really very much to keep the details, and very much appreciate those. Regarding the back extension, I'm open to if you want to keep the top portion, the 4th floor. If we should keep it brick, that's also fine. To just point it and bring it back to original what it was. But I don't know how the community look at it. I'm open to that 100%. As far as the extension goes, I would really, really appreciate if we could have the 3rd floor extension. Just, it would add a lot to have from the master bedroom, have access to come to the rooftop, it would add a lot to the house. And it just, we didn't go, we have the buildable, but we thought it's more right to just have it to divide it to 3 floor versus going at so much more, and divide that 3rd floor extension to 2 floor below, and that would eat up through the backyard, would not be nice. On the other side, I guess you guys the community called it donut. You see the extension is a lot larger. I don't find it so friendly. I don't find it, match with the neighborhood. So that was the consideration that we had, the fact that we could have the access from the master suite to the rooftop, to the balcony back there, and just make it a little bit friendly, not to go so much further out. I would really appreciate, if you could consider that for us.
Thank you. Would you like to add anything?
To address partially Ms. Levine's concern, on the front facade, as I mentioned, we are working with at the staff level to address all of the issues. The building is severely deteriorated on the front facade, and we are, as you can see in the proposed elevation, we are even proposing to install a door that is more in tune with the rest of the neighborhood. And I know that is not the concern of this committee, but just wanted to address your comment.
Okay, all right. And did you have any other final thoughts about the height and depth of the addition within this block?
Well, as I mentioned, there are other examples within the block of two-story plus basement addition, at least 3 of them. And the block also contains other, if I can find that slide. Yeah, 1, 2, 1. As you can see, and the block also contains other at least 1-story plus basement additions, 7 of them. So we believe that our enlargement is within the context of enlargements of this block, and we hope that you can grant us permission to do so.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any final questions? We'll move to close the hearing. Commissioner Holford Smith, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Thank you. And Commissioner Master, would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the hearing is closed and we'll begin our discussion. And this is a proposal for a 3-story rear yard addition, and this is a good slide to be on. You can see the context, and this is a block mostly of row houses with varying depths of yards, and majority of the houses do not have additions that are 3 stories, and I'm not even sure that the majority has 2 stories. So we'll look at this addition both in terms of its relationship to the house it's being proposed on, as well as the context. Commissioner Lutfi, would you like to start this one?
Sure. You know, it's always great when an applicant comes in and takes a building that's in, serious disrepair, and it's a lot of hard work and love in it so that it can, take its place amongst the surrounding area and contribute. So I greatly, I personally really appreciate that. And I think overall, this is a very nice project. I mean, it's simple. The fence work is nice. The windows in the back, the doors are very, very simple. It's not visible. And that's all great. I do feel, I raise these questions that this is an interior backyard where there isn't a lot of height here. In fact, most of the additions are basement or 1-story with basement. And I certainly don't have a problem with the basement, but I think this extra floor above the second kind of overwhelms not only the building, but also it doesn't really fit in with the scale of what's next to it. And my preference would be that instead of having the rear facade be stucco, that it's brick, as are the other most of the other facades.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Master?
Yes, I echo Commissioner Lutfi's, praise of the applicant for, renovating, the front facade and coming, with this design. Initially, I was a little hesitant on the 3-story addition. Because it kind of looked as if you kind of went back further than the adjacent buildings. However, when I look at the view of the, I guess with the donut and all the green space, I see that compared to some of the structures, like a couple doors down, you actually don't come out, you come out kind of comparable, or maybe not even as much as some of the other buildings. And I think that the yard space, this is the one. I think the yard space in this situation, you have plenty of green space, and I think you still preserve the donut. So I'm actually okay with the proposal as it is.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Thompson.
Yeah. When I look at the donuts and I get donut and I see the scale of the other proposals, I think it's too high. I think it should be too short.
Okay, Commissioner Goldman,
I agree.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
I agree.
Commissioner Bland.
I think it's too high. Come down, sir.
Okay, and Commissioner Holford Smith.
I agree. I think it's too tall by 1 story.
Okay, all right. So I think that we all do appreciate the care and investment in this building and this house and bringing it back and restoring it and aiding in its long-term preservation ultimately. But I think the majority of the commissioners feel that in this context that a 2-story addition would be appropriate. A 3-story addition, I think, is overwhelming in this particular context with the adjacent buildings. So, where did I start? Jeannie, would you make the motion? Sure.
In the matter of docket 24-04151, 64 Downing Street, Clayton Hill Historic District, an Italianate style row house designed by Babbitt and Sturgis and built in circa 1868 to 70. The application is to construct a rear yard addition. I note that the building's style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Clinton Hill Historic District. I recommend approval with modifications, finding that the proposed work will not damage or eliminate any significant architectural features, that the proposed rear yard addition and deck will not be visible from any public thoroughfare, that the proposed addition will not rise to the full height of the building, and the top floor will be preserved, thereby retaining a sense of the building's original scale and massing and maintaining the building's relationship to others in the row. That the proposed addition will not project farther into the rear yard than other additions on the block and will not substantially eliminate the presence of a rear yard or disrupt the continuity of the central green space. That the design and materiality of the rear addition, featuring stucco cladding with punched openings and aluminum windows, will harmonize with the existing materials and character of the building and other buildings within the row, that the size and proportions of the window and door openings are well scaled to the building and relate to rear facades typically found within the historic district, and that the proposed work will not detract from the special architectural and historic character of the building or the Clinton Hill Historic District. However, I find that the massing of the proposed addition is larger than the majority of additions on the block in terms of height and depth. I therefore recommend the proposed addition be lowered by 1 story.
Thank you. And Commissioner Jefferson, would you second that motion?
So second.
John, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll.
Aye.
Vice Chair Bland. Commissioner Ginsburg. Commissioner Goldblum. Commissioner Holford Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson. Commissioner Lutfi.
Aye.
Commissioner Master.
Aye.
8 in favor, 9 opposed. The motion passes.
Okay, so that's approved with reduced 1 story. And Commissioner Lutfi, I did recognize that you also had said you would prefer brick, but I think a 2-story height, it was more consistent with some of the other stucco rear yard additions we've approved. So I hope you were comfortable with that. Okay. Okay, so we are a little ahead of schedule. And we'll go to lunch now. We'll try to come back though a little before 1 so that we can actually start out the afternoon ahead of schedule. So let's try to come back about 1:50. And we'll ask everybody who's on this Zoom meeting to voluntarily exit the meeting at this time so that should you wish to return, you don't have any technical difficulties returning after the break. And we'll see everybody at about 12:50. Thank you.